Japan Pot 57. In an effort to make small-scale farming attractive and profitable during rapid economic growth, the government used the mechanism of high rice price subsidies. Since almost 90% of the farm families were engaged in rice growing, the ministry bureaucrats, with the support of DIET members from rural districts, have maintained barriers on agricultural imports. But given this framework of small family farms, artificially high prices, the ministry has assisted in introducing modern fertilizers and hand cultivators, reservations, rice transplanters and insecticides, and in educating farmers about the proper timing of such techniques. The result has been rapid diffusion of the modern technology and the rapid rise in the productivity per acre. The development and cultivation of new fruits and vegetables and the growth of the dairy and beef framing have been rapid and extensive. In 1950s, the Japanese government gave top priority to economic growth, to the neglect of wages, consumer goods, housing, welfare packages, and pollution control. However, in the 1960s, the capital for these social overhead expenses began to catch up in the early 1970s, sometimes grew more rapidly than the gross national product. Albeit from a lower base, the leaders sometimes neglected these problems until they became intolerable, although one could defend their general strategy of first concentrating on the economic base and then more recently attacking these issues with the same gusto and creativity they previously concentrated on issues related to economic growth. For example, the government leaders were initially slow in dealing with the issue of pollution. They had identified so much with the purpose of growth that initially they were reluctant to consider problems which would slow down growth. Death and disease from mercury poisoning were serious problems recognized by some Ministry of Health welfare bureaucrats, long before most bureaucrats designed to act. Local governments were concerned about air pollution in Tokyo, Yokkaichi, and elsewhere before the central government began to give the issue serious attention. By the early 1970s, however, the central government bureaucrats mobilized to attack the problem with vigor. Japanese auto companies originally were no more eager than their American counterparts. And there were these counterparts and their American counterparts to accept the stiff auto pollution standards demanded by the government. But when Honda announced it was prepared to meet them, its Japanese competitors had no choice but to follow quickly.